I'm Dana Whit- I'm Dana Whitfield, and at 34 I learned that a hospital bracelet doesn't protect anything you love. I spent 6 years rebuilding a cabin on Flathead Lake for my grandmother, June, the only person who ever told me I was worth keeping. I was 3 weeks into skin grafts from a wildfire line when my sister put a "sold" sign in my grandmother's yard. By the time the bandages came off my hands, the locks were already changed. Welcome back to After the Silence, where ordinary women face impossible family moments and answer them with a steady voice instead of a raised one. If you've ever been called difficult for finally drawing a line, you're in the right place. Drop a comment and subscribe. My grandmother raised me after my mother left, in a one-bedroom cabin with a wood stove that smoked when the wind came off the lake wrong. She fed me oatmeal with brown sugar and never once made me feel like a burden, even though everyone else in the family did. When she got sick, I promised her she'd die in that cabin and not in some county facility smelling of bleach and forgotten people. I became a wildland firefighter because the pay was good and the seasons left me time to fix the porch, the roof, the wiring, everything, piece by piece with my own hands. The deed went into my name 3 years ago after my grandmother signed it over with a notary present because she said she trusted me with it more than she trusted herself to live long enough to leave it any other way. My sister Carrie never came to the lake. Not for repairs, not for Sunday dinners, not for the slow Tuesday afternoons when our grandmother needed someone to read the mail to her because her eyes had gone bad. Carrie came twice a year at Christmas and on the 4th of July, photographed herself on the dock, and left. In August, a wildfire jumped containment outside Kalispell and took my crew with it for 19 days straight. On day 11, a burning snag came down across my forearms and the backs of both hands. 3rd degree, the surgeon told me, calm as a weather report. Skin grafts, 2 surgeries, morphine that made the ceiling tile swim. My phone sat in a hospital drawer, dead, for the first 4 days. By the time I charged it, there were 6 missed calls from Carrie and 1 text. "Don't worry about anything. I'm handling things at the cabin." I should have known a sentence that calm from Carrie meant something had already happened. It took me 2 more weeks to get a nurse to prop a laptop on my bed table because typing wasn't something my hands could do yet. I had her pull up the county assessor's site. The cabin, my grandmother's cabin, the one with my name on the deed, had a new listing photo on a real estate site, staged, furniture I didn't own, a price tag of $610,000, and underneath in small gray text, "Sale pending." I lay there with both arms wrapped to the elbow and felt something in my chest go very still and very cold, the way it does right before a fire crew stops running and starts planning. I called Carrie from the hospital phone. Since mine still couldn't grip anything, she picked up bright and fast like she'd been waiting. "Dana! Oh, thank God! How are your hands?" "Why is the cabin listed for sale?" A pause. Then her voice dropped into the practiced gentleness she uses when she's about to lie to someone she thinks is too weak to fight back. "Grandma's gone, Dana. She passed while you were on the fire line. I tried calling. I didn't want to tell you over a message while you were. I made the call. Someone had to." My grandmother had died, and I'd found out from a real estate listing. I let the silence sit there because I needed it to, because if I'd opened my mouth right, then I'd have said something I couldn't pull back through a hospital phone line. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Whose name is on the deed, Carrie?" Another pause, longer this time. I assumed it was in the estate. I had a lawyer friend draw up paperwork. "I'm the executor, Dana, you know that. I'm the oldest." "I'm the deed holder," I said. "It was never in the estate. Grandma signed it to me 3 years ago. There's a notary stamp with a date on it sitting in a fireproof box in that cabin's closet." The line went quiet enough that I could hear her swallow. Here's the thing people forget about me. I run into fires for a living. I have stood in heat that melts boot soles and called coordinates into a radio without my voice shaking because panic kills crews and somebody has to be the calm one. My captain used to say it about me before a burnout operation went sideways. "Whitfield doesn't raise her voice. That's when you should be worried." It always landed because my calm wasn't peace. It was the sound of a plan already forming. I had a plan forming now. I got discharged 8 days later with both hands wrapped like boxing gloves and a referral for outpatient physical therapy. I couldn't drive yet, so my crew chief, Marcus, drove me the 4 hours to the lake himself because that's what the people who actually show up do. We pulled up the gravel drive at golden hour, and there was a "sold" sign hammered into my grandmother's flower bed, the one she'd planted herself the spring before her hips gave out. A cleaning crew's van sat in the driveway. The porch swing my grandfather built in 1968 was gone. I didn't get out and scream. I sat in the truck and looked at the bare hook where the porch swing chains used to hang, and I let Marcus see my face do whatever it needed to do for 30 seconds. Then I asked him to help me find a lawyer in Kalispell who handled real estate fraud because my hand still couldn't hold a pen to sign a retainer. Her name was Renata Prout, an attorney with a practice above a hardware store on Main Street, sharp-eyed, unimpressed by tears, exactly what I needed. I laid out what I had, the notarized deed transfer from 3 years prior, dated and filed with the county, my name and my name only. Renata pulled the county record up on her own screen and turned it around so I could see it. "This deed was never legally part of your grandmother's estate," she said. "Whoever sold this property sold something they didn't own. That's not just a family dispute, Dana. Depending on what money already changed hands, that's fraud." It turned out a great deal of money had already changed hands. Carrie had used a lawyer friend, who turned out to be a paralegal she was dating, to forge an estate filing that listed the cabin among our grandmother's assets. Assets Carrie was sole executor of since I'd been unreachable on a fire line and she'd rushed the paperwork through during the 1 week I had no signal and no voice. The buyers, a retired couple from Spokane, had already wired a deposit. Closing was 9 days out. Renata filed an emergency injunction the same afternoon, hand still bandaged, voice steady. "We can stop a closing. We cannot easily unwind one after the fact. Speed is the only leverage we have." Marcus drove, back to the cabin that evening because Renata said a judge likes to see the rightful owner asked for access before anything got ugly in a courtroom. Carrie was there with 2 suitcases of her own things already half-packed into her car, sorting through our grandmother's china like she was shopping. When she saw the bandages on my hands, something flickered in her face that might have been guilt and might have just been recalculating. "You weren't supposed to find out until after," she said. "Not 'I'm sorry.' Not 'how are you?' Until after." "You sold a house you didn't own," I said, "out from under a sister who was unconscious in a burn unit to pay off whatever you needed paid off. Tell me about the money, Carrie." She didn't, not then. But Renata's discovery request 3 weeks later did. Carrie owed $40,000 in gambling debt to a private lender who'd started calling her workplace. The $610,000 sale wasn't grief moving fast. It was panic wearing grief's clothes. The injunction held. The sale collapsed. The buyers, furious but ultimately understanding once they saw the forged paperwork, got their deposit back from Carrie's escrow account, not mine. The county opened a fraud referral on the falsified estate filing. I didn't ask for Carrie to go to prison. I asked, through Renata, for a restitution agreement and a permanent quitclaim removing any future claim Carrie might try to make on the property. She signed it in a conference room without looking at me because by then there was nothing left to bargain with. The cabin is mine, on paper and on the ground where it always should have been. My hands are healing crooked in a few places, but they hold a coffee cup fine, and in October I hung a new porch swing on the same hook my grandfather used, because some things deserve to come back exactly where they were taken from. I didn't do it with rage. I did it with a deed, a notary stamp, and a lawyer who moved faster than panic could. Sometimes the steadiest voice in the room is the only one anybody should have been listening to. If this story moved you, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe for the next one. Calm always